As the title and thumbnail of this video suggests, we will be talking about Sundial's increased short interest. And no, that number is not like 10%. It's not even 25%. It's actually a lot more. As the sign says, I am not a financial advisor. Now let's find out how much the short interest has increased in Sundial Growers. So the last time that Sundial Growers reported their short interest was basically the beginning of this month, so like March, around there. And the short interest increased from the previous 2 week period, so like mid-February. From mid-February to basically the beginning of March, short interest increased on Sundial Growers by 69%. Now, for those of you that already knew this number and you're like, yeah, well, where's the new short interest numbers? The company technically reported their latest short interest numbers on March 15th, but those are not available until around sometime this week, actually. I think it'll be like later this week. So I'll definitely make a updated video on that whenever it comes out. But I just want to make this video now so that we can sort of see the comparison in real time, if you will, if the short interest not only increases, but by how much. Did you know that we actually have to go all the way back to November of 2020 to find the last period that short interest did not increase on Sundial Growers? Don't believe me? Look at this chart. Every 2 weeks since December, short interest has increased on Sundial Growers. So you'll see all the way over to the right, it says change from previous report. If the number is red, that means that it increased. If the number is green, that means it decreased. These are some pretty staggering numbers, especially in December. I don't know what the heck was happening in December, but you had basically the whole month, back-to-back reporting dates. You had an increase in short volume of 1,800%. And as you can see, since then, it has increased ever since. Now, could that just strictly be because of the stock price going up really high, really quickly? Possibly. Could that also just be because of the popularity of the stock has increased? Also a possibility. And another thing I wanted to point out, because this was sort of confusing to me at first when I was looking into this, is if you see that the last reporting date said that there are currently 180 million or thereabout shares that are currently being shorted. And I'm like, oh, that's a lot. And then I go down and look at the outstanding shares. And for those of you that know that number off the top of your head, Sundial's total outstanding shares is roughly a little bit over 82 million. So, in theory, that should mean that there's an over 100% short interest on the stock, right? Not quite. Because like I said, I was very confused too, because I'm like, there has to be, like, are we being fooled? Are we being bamboozled? Someone's putting the sheet over our heads? Like, what's going on here? So I did some digging. And I found an article on Zacks Finance. For those of you that aren't familiar, it's a pretty, nice website that is pretty accurate. And I basically figured out how this can be the case. I'm going to throw another screenshot up on the screen right now just so that you can see it as I read it. A short volume, in this case, 180 million shares, measures the number of shares that have been shorted over a given period of time. So in this instinct, the last 2 weeks. Short interest, however, which is currently at 10% on Sundial Growers, represents the number of shorted shares that have yet to be closed out or covered by investors. So those 180 million shares were the total number of shares that were shorted over the last 2 weeks or so. And the 10%, which is the current short interest, is how many of those shorts still need to cover. Sort of confusing, but that's how it works for whatever reason. And the more important number is the 10%, because it doesn't really matter if the stock has been shorted and then it's already got covered. Like it no longer has an effect. What matters is what remains. And what remains is that 10%. So while the short interest on Sundial is just a smidge over 10%, it's nothing really to, be super concerned about. I was just more so concerned and making this video for you guys to bring up the fact that short interest has increased for the last 6 weeks, 3 months. So do with that information what you will. And as we wait for the next round of short interest numbers to be released, let's say that you have a bunch of Sundial shares. If you didn't know, you can make money weekly from those shares. I'm going to post it. I think it's going to be up here actually. Video. No, I think it's going to be up here somewhere. I'll link a video about selling covered calls I made a couple days ago. They got a pretty decent response. I'll also link it in the description for you guys to take a peek at after. So that is options, if you will. I thoroughly enjoy options. I know a lot about them. I'm also going to start an options series coming up shortly. Basically, just going in depth in what I know about options, how to use them, what they are, blah, blah, blah. So if that interests you and you're not already subscribed and you want to see that, consider subscribing. Okay, that's enough of that. Now let's take a quick peek at the charts so that we can see support and resistance lines for sundial growers for this upcoming week, which would be Monday, March 22nd to Friday, March 26th. At the moment, you can see we are looking at the 90-day 1-hour chart for sundial growers. And, since we came back down to earth, it hasn't really been a whole lot to sneeze at. There hasn't really been a whole lot going on. And I like to just look out here to basically just give you guys a view of where we've been, where we went, and where we are. So if we just go in a little bit to the 20-day 1-hour chart, that's where we're pretty much just going to spend today's video. I'm not going to be super intense with it just because it's not the purpose of this video. I'm just going to be giving you guys some basic support and resistance lines. So I just drew in the Fibonacci retracements. For those of you that don't know, these are basically just suggested support and resistance lines that stocks generally like to follow. And as you can see, this stock likes these lines. So these lines are good for giving general guidance on the support as well as resistance for the upcoming days. So currently you can see that we closed below this 152 resistance line. So depending on where we open on Monday, I'm not a mind reader. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know where we're going to open. But if we open below 152, we will have to break above 152. So expect a little bit of resistance there. If we break 152, then you can see we will hit 168 will be the next resistance. That's where this is Thursday after hours, because this was earnings. Or no, this is Wednesday after hours and then Thursday pre-market. So we couldn't break above 168, came back down to earth. So that is another line of resistance to look for at the top end for this week. And if we have a really good week for whatever reason, the line of resistance way up here is $1.89. Again, we tried to break this what looks like Monday morning, couldn't. So those three numbers are lines of resistance to look forward to. More importantly, what are our lines of support moving forward? Well, we got $1.40. We hit it Friday morning, we hit it Wednesday morning, and then we used it as resistance sometime last week. So this 140 is a decent one. If we break below that, we're looking at 129. We haven't hit it recently. This was basically the beginning of last week and into 2 weeks ago. And then unfortunately, if we break 129, then we're looking at like $1.15 to $1.10. I would definitely consider the $1.10 to be a very strong line of support, because this is a blue line of support, which is not a part of the Fibonacci retracements. This is a price level that I put in looking at the 180-day chart, because this $1.10 was put in months ago. So therefore, that makes it a little bit more of a stronger line of support and resistance. So, and as you can see, we were battling with it a couple weeks ago. Did end up going down and touching the 93-cent level. Hopefully that doesn't happen anytime soon. So as far as support and resistance lines goes, I would say for this week, in terms of if this stock takes a massive swing to the upside or the downside, I can see it trading in between $1.10 and $1.89. Now, granted, those are extremes. I don't really expect the stock to go above 189 this week, and I don't really expect the stock to go below 110 this week, strictly because we're not really expecting any news. If we were expecting news, then that's a different story. From now on, we're basically just waiting for news to happen on the stock, albeit like a merger, an acquisition, if they decide to issue more shares, which I don't think they will. We already know that they don't have any debt. So we're sort of just waiting right now for the next catalyst, because earnings already happened. Hopefully you guys learned something in this video. Let me know your thoughts about the short interest and how it increased 69%, how it's increased every 2 weeks for the past 6 weeks. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, I will see you guys next video.